Hello everyone, Warren here, and I want to welcome you to the Peach State Prime Transformers channel. On this channel, we do all things Transformers related, reviews, hopefully some events coming up, and just some general discussion on robots in disguise. Today I have a little bit of a review I want to do, slash show off, and that is on the latest Hot Rod offering, Transformers the Movie, 40th Anniversary, More Than Meets the Eye Collection, Target Exclusive Voyager Class Hot Rod. So, let's take a look. So, before we dive into the figure, and trust me, lots and lots of comparisons to previous Hot Rod offerings, first I want to talk about this box. We know that there's been all sorts of different packaging variations for the Studio Series product line. I just gotta say, for what they're dubbing the More Than Meets the Eye collection, or MTMTE collection, gotta say, I feel they really knocked it out of the park. I think the artwork they use, it looks like it's been ripped directly from the 1986 Transformers the movie. Also like of course you have the big image of Hot Rod on the side there fishing, and we'll get into that in a minute. But I also like the colors they've used over here. It makes it pop, a little bit more. Then on the back, you have a nice big picture of the figure showing off all the accessories it came with, which again we'll be looking at more. You got a little bio here. And then you have a scene, of course, that classic fishing scene pulled directly from the movie. So, very striking job on the box here. And, some of the artwork and some of the packaging, I could take or leave. And usually, I used to try to keep every single box and card that my figures came in, but that became too cumbersome, so usually I'm pitching them now unless there's some sort of exclusive or just something very special, and I think this meets the criteria of hanging on to, for at least for a little bit, with as good of a job as they did. So, getting back to the figure here, so the first thing that, of course, makes this release of this mold stand out is his colors. He has this nice magenta, pink, whatever you want to call it, on him, which is screen accurate. Previous release, was all kind of orange, yellow, and reddish. I personally do not own the previous release. It's not that I didn't think it looked good. It just didn't have that. I'm a little selective. I don't buy everything that comes out. But it just didn't have that extra oomph that, put it up and over for me to purchase. This one did that. Between the colors and the accessories, not only did I pay the retail price for a Voyager, I paid the tariff price for a Voyager. So, it had that much going for it. But as you can see, everything's tampographed on here or painted on, no stickers or anything along those lines. It's almost like, I've heard people compare this to a mini masterpiece, and I have to agree with them just with the number of accessories and bells and whistles built into this thing. So I keep mentioning the accessories. Let's take a look at those. So the first thing, kind of the first set of accessories, is you get this shield, which has that nice emblazoned Autobot flame logo on it, and this laser sword. And this is used, if you recall, in the scene in the 86 movie where Hot Rod is training aboard one of the shuttles as they're traveling through space. And let's get these on him here. Pegs right in there. Whoops. Knocking my camera around. And then what's nice is, again, going back to calling this a mini masterpiece, it doesn't just have the ports there for accessories, his hands actually do open and close. So get a better shot of that. Okay, so we're just going to pop this sword right on in. His grip. Kind of reminds me of, we had Nerf swords growing up. It's kind of what this looks like to me. So you have him with his sword and shield, again, that he was training with in the movie. Very screen accurate. And you can do all sorts of cool poses with him. I know he's kind of static standing right there, but I even think that looks good. So let's pop those out. And then the next set of accessories, and again, I say set because most of the accessories, you know, kind of go together, have a partner to go with. All right, this next one. So this is the more classic Hot Rod accessory, this pair of blasters here, which are very reminiscent of the original toy that came out in '86. You know, and it's nice you got a pair of them. And again, you can either open the hands or just peg these right on in. And there's Hot Rod with his blasters. Again, you could do some sort of cool poses. But, you know, looks like he's ready for a gunfight. And so that's a great way to pose him. And the problem is there's so many cool accessories that came with this release that I'm kind of torn how I want to display him. And then, so let's see, we'll look at the next one, which I'm not going to place this in his hands because it takes a little bit more work, but he does come with this clear blue matrix of leadership. And this is supposed to represent the scene when Optimus is on his deathbed and he passes, or attempts to pass the matrix to Ultra Magnus, and of course it falls. Hot Rod catches it and it glows. Hot Rod glows, and you have that nice moment of foreshadowing, you know, of Hot Rod being the true Autobot leader at the end of the movie. So that was a nice little detail. I know the original release came with a full color matrix, but again, this is supposed to be as screen accurate as possible. The next one we actually have to do a small little bit of transformation with, and that is his saw blade. The saw blade was used in the scene when Cup and Hot Rod are on Quintessa, and you know, they're underwater, and Hot Rod has to save Cup from the giant squid, and cuts off some of his tentacles. So you see I just rotated his fist around. Let's close this back up here. There we go. You just have kind of this nub. And, you know, this has a port. You just plug it right on in there. It does kind of have a little bit of a snug fit, which, you know, is good. It won't fall off. And then you got his saw blade. And, you know, spins a little bit. You know, it's not jagged on the edge, but you do have these marks in here that, you know, allows it to look like it's spinning fast. So I like that in the design. And again, I believe that was included in the original release, if I'm not mistaken. But what was not, and let's bring his fist back on out here. There we go. Okay, now probably the most talked about accessory is this next one. And if you didn't guess it from all the beautiful shots on that box again, they're really going all in on the fishing pole. Again, this is when we're first introduced to Hot Rod for the very first time in the entire Transformers franchise. Is when we come up on him in the movie, and he's sitting there fishing with Daniel near Lookout Mountain. Of course, not far from Autobot City. And so it just, you know, you can make him hold it. Again, you can, well, I just knocked him over. You know, you can plug it in, kind of like a port, open and close his hand. You can do all sorts of nice poses with him holding the fishing pole. It is rather long, so okay, there we go. Okay, well, don't have to bend him over, but we'll just bend his arm. So you could have him sitting, standing there like he's about to catch a big one. So it was a very nice detail, and I think probably the most popular accessory that they included in this release. Two other accessories, or I guess they're technically features, of this mold. And again, these were in the previous release of Hot Rod as well. But that is, you do have his welding torch. That's on this hand here. You do it very similar to how we did the saw blade. You just lower the wrist, spin the fist around, and you have his welding torch. And of course, this is on, in the movie when he's helping to repair Autobot City. So that's a cool little detail. And again, these are little details you would expect to be in a masterpiece release, not necessarily something, akin to a Voyager. The last feature it does include is actually, if you go up to his head, you can lift it up. And then in here, you have this clear blue visor that you just flip down. And then he has his visor. And again, this is where, right after they're done fishing and they see the shuttle coming on Autobot City, Hot Rod goes, "What?" And he looks up and sees the Decepticons and using the shuttle as a Trojan horse. Then he raises his arms, yells Decepticons, and starts firing on them. So, again, you can reenact that scene here. And very cool. Okay, and before we transform this guy, I do want to give a couple comparisons. The very first one is going to be the original G1 Hot Rod toy. Now, I know what you're all thinking. Where's the flames on his chest? When I picked this one up, my copy here, and this is an original, not a re-release, he actually did not have the sticker applied. So, yeah, so someone never applied it. But to help with that, and an even better comparison, do have the Walmart reissue that was done just a couple years ago. Again, in those screen accurate colors. So that's probably a better comparison than even looking at our G1 guy here. So actually, we're going to take him away because we have the same mold here in that Walmart reissue in that commemorative line for Transformers the movie. See, the colors are very similar, and, I think it's a great, this one over here, this Voyager, is a great update to having a G1 mold. And then what's interesting, though, is they are both about the same size, and except for one of the figures we're going to look at today, they all are roughly the same size. So the next Hot Rod we're going to compare it to, and we'll get a shot of all of them together at the end. This is the Classics release. That was released around 2007, going into the live-action movie. Kind of what started the precursor to the Generations line. Of course, this one's a bit beefier than our latest Hot Rod, and nowhere near as screen accurate, regardless of the colors of the Voyager mold here. But again, still roughly the same size. But colors are nowhere near in this previous Classics release that I like in this one. So I don't know, this one here might be the best Hot Rod ever. Next, we have Titan's Return Hot Rod. And again, I don't have every single Hot Rod ever released, but these are some of the key ones, the ones that I do have. So Titan's Return, looks a little bit more like that classic Hot Rod. Again, have those two guns there. Of course, this one is a Titan Master or Headmaster, whatever you like to call it. You know, he does still have the spoiler on the back, but as you can see, it's a bit shorter. So I think the new Voyager hot rod still wins. And then let's take a look at, so those were other quote-unquote hot rod figures. And this is the Commander Class Rodimus Prime figure. You know, done up in those reds and yellows and oranges. However, what I like here is I could totally see this hot rod, you know, changing the color palette and everything, getting the Matrix, and transforming into this guy here, Rodimus Prime. I totally buy that. You know, you put them, you know, one behind the other. You kind of got that evolution thing going. But, I mean, I definitely see them being, you know, family, for lack of a better word, or descendants of each other. And I kind of like that on my shelf. You know, you have Hot Rod, you know, standing out, you know, again, in the magenta slash pink and the screen accurate details. And then growing up, so to speak, got this little cobweb here, growing up into this big hulking leader of the Autobots. Now, speaking of big, the last one that I want to compare to is, this is the original, sorry guys, let me adjust the camera here, this guy's so big. This is the original Masterpiece Hot Rod slash Rodimus Prime. You know, a lot bigger than today's Masterpieces. He does go back between Hot Rod and Rodimus Prime modes. I believe this is the Rodimus mode. Would take too long for me to adjust it right now, but even with the Masterpiece, you know, as much as I think the Masterpiece figure looks good on my shelf, I really appreciate the detail and all the features in this little guy here, little by comparison. And, you know, just a screen accurate paint job. And, you know, as far as the one I'm going to say is my quote unquote hot rod, I have to say this one wins. So just a quick 360 look of the figure in bot mode with the sword and shield. You know, again, you see he doesn't have too much back kibble. So, again, a win there. Poses very well. You know, whether you want more of a stoic slash static look, or an action pose of him fishing. Very cool and very good job. Alright, and here we have vehicle mode for the Voyager Hot Rod, the 40th anniversary Transformers the movie figure. And this, just like what we saw with the robot mode, is very, very screen accurate to what we have in Transformers the movie. And I don't think we're ever going to get any better with any Masterpiece, any other release of this mold, any additional molds. I just think this looks great. You know, just like with all modern Transformers, you got to make sure that everything's tapped in just right to achieve this look. Transformation isn't too bad. You know, sometimes I consider them pretty tedious. This one's actually enjoyable to transform and pretty intuitive even without directions. Didn't show the transformation. I figured there's enough resources out on the web for that I didn't want to bore everybody with a repeat of that. And really just focus on what makes this figure special and, you know, kind of my thoughts on it. And one interesting thing that Hasbro did, almost comical, is in the instructions, they actually provide you with steps on how to store every single accessory that came with this release of Hot Rod on the vehicle mode. So we're going to do that real quick. So let's see. We have our 2 blasters we're going to start with. They plug right into the engine block here using the tabs on the sides. Right, which, you know, itself looks kind of cool there. And then, let's see, the next step is to take the saw blade and put that on top of the blasters. You have to get those tabs just right. All right, we got it. Okay, so again, that looks kind of cool. Then we're going to take the sword and shield. And first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the sword and we're going to use this little peg here. And we're going to peg it onto the shield. Okay, which, you know, again, that looks kind of cool on its own. And then we're actually going to plug it in using these tabs here into the holes on the roof. Okay, now we're starting to look maybe a little silly. Now we're going to take the fishing pole. And we're going to plug it in to one of the gun pegs on the engine block. And there's a little peg hole on the underside of the reel. And then we're going to take the Matrix. Yes, even the Matrix gets to travel on top of Hot Rod in vehicle mode. And there we are. So maybe it looks like something out of the Road Warrior movies. I think of it more as like the Beverly Hillbillies or, you know, college move-in Hot Rod, you know, hauling all his stuff there. And so, look, I give credit to Hasbro for the weapons storage. You know, that's always something important so you don't lose anything. But, you know, it does look kind of comical. So in robot mode, I know I, you know, did a comparison to a lot of the other Hot Rod releases. However, the one I want to focus on for vehicle mode is that Walmart exclusive commemorative re-release, again, in those same colors. And I think they do complement each other quite well. You know, this one being, you know, that classic Hot Rod in the catalog we never quite got up until this release. And this one here being, you know, that screen accurate Hot Rod, again, that we almost got with the first release of this mold. And just came out just amazing in this release. So, you know, it's kind of like, you know, father and son here. And just, you know, when you think about the movie and, you know, anytime you see Hot Rod in the movie, just the overall shape of his vehicle mode here just really comes off. And one thing that's kind of interesting note, so, you know, Hot Rod is known for these big exhaust pipes on the side here. You know, this release kind of used, you know, a little bit of a trick from the original G1 release. And that is, you know, now these exhaust pipes just go kind of behind each other from the arm to the leg. These actually plug into each other. And I think that's, you know, kind of nifty to keep it all together. And again, you know, they are what they are. One thing I'm not a huge fan of with Transformers, to me, one of the things that set them apart from GoBots a lot is GoBots, when you flip them over, a lot of the time you'd see the head underneath, and I like not seeing that. That's my only gripe about the original Hot Rod mold is, you know, you flip it over and it's like, hi, I'm a robot. So, you know, that's one thing where this one does have the original beat, but the original mold's always going to be the original, though I do like these colors better. All right, so as promised, here is our family photo of the Hot Rod family. At least all the ones I showed off today. Of course, I just even think looking at this lineup, I really think that our latest entry really pops and stands out. I know there's other figures in the background, but, you know, you got that Masterpiece one kind of lanky in the background. But, you know, again, Hot Rod turning into Rodimus Prime here. I buy that, and I just think that pulls it off so well, especially with this new paint job. And of course, you know, you start with your originals, reissue the original, redeco the original, classics, Titans Return, current studio series, Rodimus Prime, and then Commander Class, that is, and then of course the first Masterpiece release back there. All right, so just some final thoughts. You know, we've thoroughly looked at this figure, and if you can't tell by now, I'm very pleased with it. I give it a 10 out of 10, and that's rare. I mean, I like, usually with a Transformer, there's something I always like about it, but there's also, you know, its fair share of complaints. I have no complaints about this figure. Now, I know, unfortunately, some fans out there who also well, I actually got lucky and got to order it the day of release, but some of those that pre-ordered or even found it in the store, they actually had some issues. There was a misassembly in the plant where I believe the forearms are both the same, so that the tabs, like I was talking about the tabs earlier, they're both on the same side versus opposite sides like it's supposed to be, like in this release. So, unfortunately, I know some people are going through that as far as a quality issue. I was very fortunate not to have any issues with my copy. So I feel very fortunate, and hopefully if you were impacted by that or are in the future, hopefully you can get it taken care of with Hasbro or Target as soon as possible. But anyways, want to thank you for watching this video. This is my first Transformers review. I'm sure there's a couple things here and there I can improve, so I'll be doing that as time goes on. But again, hope you enjoyed it. Hope you got something out of it for this figure. Again, thank you for taking the time to watch, and feel free to like the video, leave a comment, subscribe, all that good YouTube stuff. And I hope you have a great day, and God bless.